Sir Rowan had never seen a storm like this. The wind howled through the jagged peaks of the mountains, tossing his cloak and drenching him with icy rain. He stumbled on loose stones, his armor heavy and sticky with mud, every step a struggle. Just a few days ago, he had fought off a band of ruthless marauders who had attacked a nearby village. Though he had survived, the battle had left him battered, his body aching, and his mind exhausted. He had set out into the mountains, seeking solitude and a place to rest, but the storm had other plans. Through the gray haze of rain and lightning, he noticed a strange glow in the distance. At first, he thought it was a reflection off wet rocks, or a trick of his tired eyes. But as he drew closer, the light grew brighter and steadier, almost as if it were alive. Curiosity, stronger than fatigue, urged him forward. He pressed on, slipping and sliding, until he reached the mouth of a cave. The light spilled from within, a soft bluish glow that cut through the darkness of the storm outside. Cautiously, Rowan stepped inside. The air was warmer here, filled with a strange scent that was neither earthy nor metallic, but something entirely unfamiliar. His eyes widened as he took in the sight before him. At the center of the cave stood a figure unlike anything he had ever imagined. She was humanoid in shape, but her skin shimmered with a pale, radiant blue. Her eyes were larger than a human's, deep and luminous, like liquid sapphires. Her hair floated slightly as if underwater, and her movements carried an effortless grace that seemed almost otherworldly. Rowan's hand instinctively went to the hilt of his sword, but he did not draw it. He sensed no immediate danger, only a quiet, commanding presence. The figure regarded him with a calm intensity, studying him as carefully as he studied her. There was a nobility about her, a quiet strength that seemed to radiate from every movement. Despite the alien appearance, Rowan could feel the sincerity in her gaze. "I did not expect a human here," she said, her voice melodic yet firm. Rowan started slightly, not because of the sound, but because it was so clear and precise, cutting through the roar of the storm outside. He realized that despite the unusual features, her expression carried emotions he could understand: concern, patience, and determination. I didn't expect to find anyone here either," Rowan managed to say, his voice rough from shouting over the storm. He took a cautious step forward, keeping his hand near his sword but not drawing it. "I am Sir Rowan. I mean no harm." She nodded slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement that made Rowan's tension ease a little. "I am Princess Liara. You are injured." Her eyes flicked briefly to his side, where his armor was dented and scratched, and to the bandages that were hastily wrapped around his arm. Rowan felt a mix of embarrassment and relief. Even in this strange place, he was recognized as someone in need, not merely an intruder. I need rest," he admitted, his voice low. "The storm—" He trailed off, realizing it sounded ridiculous. "I mean, the storm forced me here." Liara's gaze softened. She stepped closer, her movements silent and fluid. Rowan noticed that her skin seemed to emit a faint glow, illuminating the cave in a comforting light. She pointed to a smoother section of rock that seemed like a natural bench. "Sit. You must regain your strength." As Rowan eased himself down, he observed more of the cave. Crystals embedded in the walls reflected the light in prismatic colors, creating a serene, almost magical atmosphere. Pools of water collected in natural hollows, their surfaces perfectly still despite the raging storm outside. Rowan could hear the storm's roar fading slightly in this hidden sanctuary. Liara knelt near him and placed a small glowing crystal against his bandages. Rowan felt warmth spread through his arm, and the sharp sting of pain dulled immediately. "Your wounds will heal faster," she said. "But that is not all that brings you here, is it?" Rowan looked at her, surprised. I don't understand." "You carry the weight of your people," she replied softly. "Your courage and sense of duty brought you to this place. You were meant to find me just as I was meant to find you." Her words puzzled him, but there was a sincerity he could not ignore. He felt a strange pull, a feeling that fate had led him here to this cave, to this alien presence. He studied her more closely. Despite her beauty and alien form, there was something human in her eyes. It was the kind of understanding that comes from shared struggle, a recognition that both of them had faced battles, different in nature perhaps, but equally real. Rowan felt an unfamiliar trust building inside him, a willingness to believe that she was an ally, not a threat. Without warning, Liara reached for a sword that lay across a pedestal of stone. It was unlike any blade Rowan had ever seen. Its hilt was smooth, made of a material that seemed both metallic and alive. The blade shimmered with a faint blue light, resonating with the glow of her skin. She turned to him, her eyes serious. "Take it," she said. "This blade is meant for a warrior who will fight for more than just himself. Will you accept it?" Rowan hesitated. The gesture was extraordinary, almost incomprehensible. A princess from another world, offering him her weapon, her trust. He felt the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. To take it meant responsibility, a choice to step into something far beyond his understanding. Yet in that instant he felt a surge of purpose. He reached out and gripped the hilt. The moment his fingers touched the sword, warmth surged through him. The blade seemed to hum in his hand, responding to his presence. Rowan could feel a connection, not just to the weapon, but to the one who had entrusted it to him. He looked up at Liara, who nodded solemnly. "Together," she said simply. Rowan nodded, feeling a sense of determination he had not felt in years. The storm outside still raged, but inside the cave, a quiet calm settled over them. Two beings, from different worlds bound by fate, ready to face challenges that neither could face alone. In that moment, Rowan understood that this encounter was the beginning of something extraordinary, a journey that would change both their lives forever. After the storm had passed, Sir Rowan and Princess Liara left the cave together. The sky was still heavy with clouds, but the rain had stopped, leaving the mountain air fresh and crisp. Rowan felt the weight of the sword in his hand, the glow, from its blade faint but steady. It was unlike any weapon he had ever held, light yet strong as if it were alive. He could feel energy flowing through it, almost guiding his movements. It gave him a strange confidence, and for the first time since the Marauder attack, he felt ready for what might come next. As they walked down the winding paths of the mountains, Liara spoke of her world. It was not like Earth, though it shared familiar elements, trees, rivers, skies, but everything was brighter, sharper, as if life itself was more vivid. She explained that her people were not invincible. Despite their advanced skills and long lifespans, they were under threat from a rogue faction seeking to conquer her realm and expand into others, including Earth. The thought of humans being caught in this conflict made Rowan's stomach tighten. He had always fought for people close to him, for his village, his friends, and his honor. But this was something far greater. Something that could affect the fate of two worlds. "I have watched your people from afar," Liara said, her voice quiet but firm. "I have seen your courage, your determination, your ability to rise even when the odds are against you. That is why I chose to trust you with this blade. You are not just a warrior of your land. You are a bridge between our worlds." Dorite looked down at the glowing sword in his hands. It pulsed softly, almost as if it agreed with her words. I don't know if I am worthy," he admitted. "I am just a human, with no knowledge of your world or your battles. How can I fight against enemies I have never seen?" Liara smiled, a mixture of kindness and pride in her eyes. "You do not fight alone, Rowan. The sword is not merely a weapon. It will guide you, strengthen you, and help you understand things you cannot yet imagine. But more than that, you have a heart that does not waver. That is what truly matters." They made camp in a small clearing near a stream, the water glistening under the dim light that filtered through the clouds. Liara taught Rowan how to move with the sword, how to feel its energy rather than just wield it mechanically. Each day he practiced under her careful instruction, learning not just attacks but defenses, timing, and the flow of combat that was unlike anything he had known. At first he struggled. The sword seemed to resist his every motion, almost testing his patience. But gradually he began to understand its rhythm, and a connection grew between them. a silent communication through motion and intent. During the evenings, they shared stories. Rowan spoke of his childhood, of his family and village, of the battles he had fought to protect those he loved. Liara, in turn, told him about her people, their traditions, and their hope for peace. Rowan was fascinated by the differences, but also by the similarities. Despite being from different worlds, they both understood sacrifice, courage, and loyalty. Each story brought them closer, turning caution into trust and trust into friendship. One evening as they sat by the fire, Liara's expression grew serious. "Rowan, the threat we face is closer than I first thought. The rogue faction is preparing to strike here near the portals that connect our worlds. If they succeed, it will not only destroy my people but could endanger yours as well." Rowan felt a chill run down his spine. He had faced enemies before, but never with stakes this high. "What can we do?" he asked, gripping the sword tightly. "We must act before they reach the portals," Liara replied. "But the journey will be dangerous. There will be creatures, terrain, and forces beyond your imagination. You must be ready, not just in strength, but in mind and spirit." Over the next days, they journeyed through forests and rocky valleys, navigating hidden paths and secret passages known only to Liara. Rowan learned to trust not only the sword but her guidance. In one narrow gorge, they were ambushed by creatures that seemed born from the shadows themselves, beings that moved swiftly, striking with precision. Rowan's training under Liara's watchful eye paid off. He fought with a grace he never thought he could achieve, the sword glowing brighter with each successful strike. When the last creature fell, he felt exhilaration and relief. Liara nodded at him, her eyes reflecting pride. "You are learning quickly, Rowan. The blade responds to courage, but also to clarity of mind. Remember, strength alone is not enough. You must think, feel, and understand in harmony." They continued their journey, encountering other challenges: raging rivers that needed clever ways to cross, treacherous cliffs where one wrong step could be fatal, and strange anomalies that defied the laws of nature as Rowan knew them. Each obstacle tested their endurance but also strengthened their bond. Rowan began to see Liara not just as a guide but as a partner. Together they faced danger, and together they discovered how to rely on one another. In quiet moments, Rowan pondered the enormity of what lay ahead. He thought of his village, his family, and the life he had known. All of it seemed small in comparison to the path he had chosen. Yet there was no fear in his heart, only determination. He understood that some opportunities, some responsibilities, were meant to test the limits of what a person could endure and achieve, and he felt ready. One night, under a sky filled with unfamiliar stars, Liara turned to him. "Rowan, tomorrow we will reach the first stronghold of the rogue faction. It will be dangerous, but we must act quickly. Are you prepared?" Rowan looked at her, the glowing blade in his hand, and felt a surge of resolve. "I am ready," he said firmly. "Whatever it takes, I will stand by you." Liara's lips curved into a faint smile, a mixture of relief and pride. "Then we move together. Remember, it is not just the sword, nor your skill, that will make the difference. It is your heart, your courage, and your willingness to believe that even the smallest actions can shape the fate of worlds." As dawn broke over the horizon, painting the mountains with pale gold and silver light, Rowan and Liara prepared to continue their journey. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with dangers they could not fully predict. Yet for the first time, Rowan felt truly alive, connected to something far greater than himself. He had found not just a purpose, but a companion, a guide, and a friend. And as the wind whispered through the mountains, he knew that the real journey, the fight to protect both their worlds, was only just beginning. Rowan and Liara moved carefully through the dense forest that stretched between the mountains and the first stronghold of the rogue faction. The trees were taller and older than any Rowan had ever seen, their trunks wide and twisted, their leaves shimmering faintly as if dusted with starlight. Shadows shifted unnaturally between the trunks and strange sounds echoed from deep within the woods. Rustling, distant calls, and the whisper of branches brushing together. Rowan gripped the glowing sword tightly, its light cutting through the darkness like a beacon. Liara led the way with confidence. She moved silently, her senses alert to every sound, every movement. Rowan had begun to trust her instincts completely, realizing that her people's heightened awareness and skill were unmatched. At times he would stumble or freeze, startled by sudden noises or strange illusions, and she would guide him forward with a calm word or a gentle hand on his shoulder. Each step deepened the trust between them, and Rowan found himself relying on her not just for guidance but for courage he didn't know he possessed. The journey was not easy. They encountered steep cliffs that required careful climbing, rushing streams that threatened to sweep them away, and thick underbrush that slowed their progress. At one point, a sudden landslide nearly knocked Rowan off his feet, but Liara caught him just in time. "You must keep your focus," she said, her voice calm despite the danger. "The environment itself can be a weapon in the wrong hands, or in ours, if we understand it." Rowan nodded, realizing that every step, every decision, mattered more than ever. As they traveled, Liara began to share more of her knowledge about her people's world. She spoke of hidden cities suspended in the air, of creatures that could blend into shadows, and of ancient relics imbued with energy that could be used for protection or destruction. Rowan listened in awe, feeling both overwhelmed and inspired. The world she described was beautiful, mysterious and full of danger, but it was also filled with possibilities he had never imagined. The more he learned, the more he understood why she had entrusted the sword to him. One evening, as they set up camp near a tranquil lake that mirrored the stars above, Rowan asked her about the rogue faction. "Why do they seek to destroy your people?" he asked, skipping a small pebble across the water. "They are driven by greed and a desire for power," Liara replied, skipping a pebble herself. "They do not care for life or balance. They believe that strength comes from conquest, not cooperation. Their actions threaten not just my world, but the harmony between ours and yours. That is why we cannot wait. They must be stopped before they reach the portals." Rowan nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He had faced enemies before, but never ones who could threaten entire worlds. The sword in his hand felt heavier in a different way now, not just as a weapon, but as a symbol of the trust placed in him. He looked at Liara and saw her determination, mirrored in her eyes, and he knew he could not falter. The next day, as they neared the outskirts of the rogue faction's territory, the forest grew darker and more oppressive, the air felt thick, and the usual sounds of wildlife had vanished, replaced by an eerie silence that made Rowan's skin prickle. Liara moved with greater caution, signaling him to follow her closely. Suddenly, shadows shifted along the tree line, and Rowan felt a presence watching them. His hand tightened on the sword, the glow growing brighter as if warning him of danger. Without warning, creatures leaped from the shadows. They were humanoid in shape, but their faces were twisted, their eyes glowing red. They attacked with speed and ferocity, and Rowan realized that the rogue faction had trained them well. Liara moved beside him, striking with precision and grace, the glow of her blade illuminating the chaos. Rowan followed her lead, his sword responding to his instincts, blocking and striking in ways he never thought possible. The battle was intense. Rowan's heart pounded, and sweat ran down his face, but he felt alive in a way he had never known. Each strike, each movement was guided by the bond between him, Liara, and the sword. They fought side by side, covering each other, anticipating each other's moves. When the last creature fell, Rowan and Liara stood together, breathing heavily, their faces streaked with mud and sweat. Rowan looked at her and realized how much he had grown in such a short time. He was no longer just a human knight. He was a warrior capable of facing challenges beyond his understanding. After the skirmish, Liara led him to a hidden path that wound around the rogue faction's main outpost. It was dangerous terrain, filled with traps and natural obstacles, but it offered the only safe way to approach undetected. Rowan followed closely, feeling a mixture of fear and excitement. The closer they got, the more he understood the importance of their mission. The fate of not just her people but his world as well rested on their success. Along the journey they also encountered signs of life. Small settlements where innocent beings had been hiding, terrified of the rogue faction's attacks. Rowan helped where he could, offering reassurance and protection, and he realized that the sword's power extended beyond combat. It gave him confidence, courage, and the ability to inspire hope in others. Liara watched him with a mixture of pride and relief, knowing that the bond they shared was strengthening not just their own skills, but the spirit of those they aimed to protect. One night, as they rested on a high cliff overlooking the rogue faction's territory, Liara spoke quietly. "Tomorrow we will enter their stronghold. It will be our greatest challenge yet. We must be clever, quick, and united. Rowan, I trust you with more than the sword. I trust you with the fate of our people." Rowan felt the weight of her words, but also a surge of determination. "I will not fail you," he said firmly. "Together, we will stop them." As the moon rose high, casting silver light over the land below, Rowan felt a deep sense of connection, not only to Liara, but to a purpose far greater than himself. The journey across worlds had tested him, taught him, and changed him. He was ready for what lay ahead, ready to face the rogue faction, ready to fight not just for survival, but for hope, for friendship, and for the future of both their worlds. Tiant. Night passed quietly, the stars reflecting in the still waters of the cliffside pools. Rowan and Liara slept lightly, their senses alert, knowing that dawn would bring challenges unlike any they had faced before. And as the first light of day touched the horizon, they rose together, ready to continue their journey, united in purpose, stronger than they had ever been, and prepared to face the dangers that awaited in the battle to come. Rowan and Liara approached the rogue faction's stronghold at first light. The fortress loomed ahead, built into jagged cliffs, its walls dark and imposing. Smoke rose from the towers, and distant sounds of movement hinted at the forces within. Rowan tightened his grip on the glowing sword, feeling its warmth and the silent reassurance it always gave him. Liara moved with calm precision, scanning the fortress and pointing out weak spots, entrances, and patrol patterns. Every step required focus, as a single mistake could alert the enemy to their presence. They slipped through hidden paths and narrow ledges, avoiding sentries and traps, until they reached a small opening at the edge of the main courtyard. Below, rogue soldiers moved in formation, unaware of the intruders above. Rowan felt a mixture of fear and excitement. He had trained, fought, and traveled across dangerous lands to reach this moment, and now the final test awaited. Liara placed a hand on his shoulder. "Remember, Rowan, courage and clarity. We act together and we can succeed." At her signal, they descended swiftly, landing silently among the shadows. The soldiers were taken by surprise. Rowan's sword glowed brighter as he moved, its energy guiding his strikes. The blade cut through the chaos, precise and controlled, its light illuminating each movement. Liara fought beside him, a whirlwind of blue energy and skill, directing allies and striking down enemies with unmatched precision. They moved as one, the bond between human and alien stronger than either had imagined. The battle intensified as more soldiers poured from the fortress. Rowan's heart pounded, adrenaline surging through him. He ducked under swings of heavy blades, parried attacks, and countered with the sword's strength enhancing his movements. Liara's eyes never left him, signaling when to strike and when to retreat. The rogue faction had underestimated them, but their determination was fierce, and Rowan could see the danger in every advancing soldier. At one point, a massive figure emerged, a commander of the rogue faction armored in dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Rowan froze for a moment, but Liara's voice cut through his fear. "Do not hesitate, together!" With a nod he charged, feeling the sword respond to his resolve. The commander swung with terrifying speed, but Rowan anticipated each movement, blocking and countering with precision. Liara attacked from the side, her blade striking the enemy in tandem with Rowan's, and the commander staggered. Together they forced him back, each strike pushing the tide of battle in their favor. Outside, reinforcements from Liara's people and human allies had begun to arrive, joining the fight. Rowan realized that the battle was not just about strength, but coordination and trust. He moved among the chaos, guiding allies, defending those in need, and striking with the sword whenever the enemy broke through. Liara's strategies proved invaluable, and their combined leadership turned the tide of the battle. Soldiers who had once been confident now faltered, unsure how to fight against a human and an alien working in perfect harmony. Hours passed in a blur of motion, sound, and energy. The rogue faction's forces dwindled as Rowan and Liara led their allies through every challenge. Exhaustion clawed at Rowan, but he drew strength from the bond with Liara and the sword's constant guidance. Each victory, each successful defense, reinforced his belief that he could face anything when they worked together. At last, the remaining soldiers retreated into the fortress, defeated and demoralized. Rowan and Liara stood in the courtyard, surveying the aftermath. The battle had been won, but the cost was clear. Injuries and exhaustion were everywhere, and the fortress showed the scars of conflict. Rowan looked at Liara, her expression calm yet somber. "We have succeeded today," she said quietly. "But the fight for peace is never truly over." Rowan nodded, understanding that the bond they had formed and the courage they had shown would echo far beyond this moment. As the sun set, casting golden light across the fortress, Rowan felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had faced unimaginable danger, learned new skills, and discovered strength within himself that he never knew existed. Liara placed a hand on his shoulder, her eyes meeting his. "You have proven yourself, Rowan, not just as a warrior, but as a protector of both our worlds." Rowan felt pride swell in his chest, tempered by humility. He had done what few could, and he had done it with a companion who had trusted him completely. The aftermath of the battle brought reflection and resolution. The rogue faction had been defeated, and the alliance between humans and Liara's people had been solidified. Rowan returned to his village with the glowing sword in hand, now more than a weapon, a symbol of trust, courage, and the bond between worlds. He was greeted as a hero, but he knew that true victory lay not just in fighting, but in understanding and unity. He spent time helping rebuild areas damaged by the rogue faction's attempts, teaching others what he had learned, and sharing stories of courage and cooperation. Liara's people visited, exchanging knowledge, culture, and friendship. Rowan marveled at how different their worlds were, yet how much they could accomplish together. The sword remained with him, a reminder that even a single human could make a difference when guided by trust, courage, and the desire to protect others. Liara eventually returned to her homeworld, but the connection between her and Rowan remained unbroken. They corresponded through secure channels, sharing news, strategies, and hope for the future. Rowan felt the lessons of their journey living within him: resilience, trust, and the belief that even the most unlikely heroes could rise to extraordinary challenges. Time passed, and Rowan became a mentor to other knights and defenders, teaching them the principles he had learned: courage, teamwork, and the willingness to face danger for the greater good. The story of the blue alien princess and the human knight spread across villages, inspiring others to look beyond differences and to embrace the potential in every person, no matter where they came from. Years later, Rowan visited the mountains, where he first met Liara. The cave still glowed faintly, as if remembering their arrival. He placed the sword carefully on the pedestal where she had first entrusted it to him. In that moment, he understood that their journey had been about more than battle. It had been about connection, trust, and the power of two worlds coming together. He turned to leave, carrying the lessons and memories with him, ready for whatever future challenges awaited. The legacy of Rowan and Liara lived on, a tale of courage, unity, and hope. Humans and Liara's people continued to work together, sharing knowledge, protecting one another, and facing new challenges as allies. Rowan knew that their story would inspire generations to come, a reminder that bravery and trust could overcome even the greatest of obstacles. and as he walked away from the cave, the wind whispering through the mountains, he felt a quiet certainty. The bond he had formed with Liara and the lessons of the glowing sword would guide him for the rest of his life.